Welcome back to the Morph Your Mind podcast. I am your host, Justin Wright. My co-host, Chrissy Barron, will be on in a little bit. And this week's topic is actually a lot of fun for Chrissy and I to discuss. We're going to be talking about lessons learned from entrepreneurship and also lessons learned from corporate jobs or the corporate world and how those interrelate, because there are important lessons to be learned from both. And this is a really fun episode to do because we got to actually sit back and reflect on the businesses that we have each created and how we've gone through that process and what we've learned along the way. And if you listen to last week's episode, if you are an entrepreneur yourself and you're managing stress and you're trying to figure out how to wind down or how to deal with that burnout that we were discussing, fortunately for you, our title sponsor, Nova 3 Labs, has a supplement that helps with adrenal fatigue. They have a number of other supplements that can help with quality of sleep, quality of life, help with that stress. And if you use the code podcast15 at nova3labs.com, you can save yourself some money on those supplements, and those will help you out quite a bit. So, diving right into lessons learned. First, I have to talk about the lessons that I learned from my regular jobs before I worked in the position I'm in now, before I started my company, or I guess companies, businesses. So I think and firmly believe that every single person should work a restaurant job, whether you're a server, whether you're a bartender, whether you work in the kitchen. I had the benefit of working front of house first as a host, then as a server. I had a job bartending through the beginning of college, and I also got to work back of house. So I got to work on the line as a cook. And in those jobs, in those situations, I think that the valuable lessons there are that you learn how to deal with people face to face. You learn how to be customer facing, because if you work in a restaurant, if you're working for tips, the customer is always right, and you need to find ways to deal with unruly people, deal with unhappy people, and still get the mission done or accomplish the task, and that's to give them a good experience and have a smile on your face and handle that situation as well as you can. So working those jobs helps with that customer-facing piece of it. But an even almost more valuable lesson is that you learn how to deal with stress in a very efficient way. And a lot of people say, oh, my job is so stressful, and today was stressful, this, that, and the other thing. But until you've been a server with a full section with people waiting to sit down and you're running around trying to process all those orders, or if you've worked back of house when you're working and cooking through a dinner rush and your screen is full of food that you need to fire and you need to make and you need to get that out in a reasonable amount of time, it teaches you how to process a lot of things at once and deal with that stress. So the first point that I'm making is, if you have not worked a restaurant job, if you're still young, do it. Even just as a side job, as a couple nights a week, pick it up over the summers if you're a student and you're not working. The lessons that I learned there are invaluable, and they help me in many ways to this day, dealing with stresses and dealing with things in the businesses that I'm involved in and I'm a part of now. And the other corporate-ish job that taught me quite a bit was I actually worked as a research assistant in a chemistry lab in college. So many of you listening already know this, but I have a degree in chemistry, and I was working in an atmospheric chemistry lab as an undergrad. And the lab that I worked in had no graduate students. So we had the professor who oversaw all the experiments. We had a postdoc who was in charge of us. He was our direct supervisor, but we didn't have graduate students assisting in the lab. And so for anybody who knows about research labs, especially at universities, generally speaking, the graduate students who are there getting their PhDs are they're the ones doing a lot of the work and the day-to-day stuff in the lab. And if you're an undergraduate, you're assisting with very basic things. You're getting experience being in a lab setting, understanding what goes on, but that's really the extent of it. And the benefit that I had from working in the lab that I worked in is that because there were no graduate students, we were directly involved in a lot of the experiments day to day. And I actually was able to contribute research to multiple research papers before I graduated. And so being a part of that process taught me a lot about deadlines. It taught me how to be a better writer. It taught me how to actually relay the information that I want people to know more clearly. And that has been an invaluable lesson that I have taken into my businesses, because when I'm sitting there in a boardroom giving a presentation to a group of potential clients, or when I'm trying to pitch one of my services, when I'm trying to explain the knowledge that I can relate to people in a coaching setting, being able to assimilate that information in a logical way and present it in a logical way is extremely important. And when you're presenting research, especially to people who are way smarter than you are, which was the case certainly when I was in undergrad, you need to be able to deal with criticism and hard questions, and you need to be able to answer hard questions. And not freezing up and not worrying about that was an invaluable lesson I learned in that situation. So putting yourself in hard situations in the corporate world or in a corporate job where you have to give tough presentations, where you have to report to supervisors who are asking you tough questions, who are demanding excellence, if you're able to contribute on that scale, then that experience is really valuable for, pitching things on your own when you do branch out. But the meat and potatoes of this episode is really, what are the lessons that I've learned as an entrepreneur? And when I took the job out of college that I did, when I started coaching at the gym, I'm now the head coach at Invictus Boston. I took the job specifically because it was going to give me opportunities to be an entrepreneur. So I didn't want to just coach. I didn't want to work in an office. I didn't want to work in a cubicle, but I also didn't want to just work at a gym. I was passionate about health and wellness. I was passionate about fitness, but I didn't want to just work in a regular gym setting and have that be all that I do. And there's nothing wrong with that if you manage your own gym or work at a gym and you enjoy that. I'm not saying that in and of itself is a bad thing. But for me, I knew that I needed to be challenged, and I knew that I needed to have opportunities to take ownership of projects and build things. And when you're fresh out of college, it's really hard to go out on your own and be successful and start your own company and be successful. And some people have done that. And a lot of the biggest and most successful companies are run by very young people. But I wanted to be able to create things in an environment where I also knew that I was going to get a paycheck. And so I don't consider myself a true entrepreneur because I technically did start by working for somebody else. But I knew that I was going to have the opportunity to create and build. And so that job has allowed me to essentially dip my feet in the pool of entrepreneurship and take on projects. And now I'm in charge of our facilities. I'm in charge of all of our coaches. I've built our team. And so on that note, that taught me the importance of teamwork. And it taught me that building a team of good people is one of the most important things you can do if you're running your own business. And I mean good people in that they're trustworthy, they have the same values as you, they care. Because you can teach anyone a skill, and anyone can learn a skill. Now, people learn skills at different rates, but don't look for people who are highly skilled. Look for people who care. Look for people who work hard, who put in effort, who go that extra mile. Look at people who wow you in the interview when you ask them about their values and what matters to them. And if you get a good vibe from somebody, if somebody is able to just deliver a winning interview, if they're able to really convince you of their character, those are the people you want on your team. Because those are the people who are going to go the extra mile, put in the work, and especially with entrepreneurship, especially with startups and small businesses, times are going to get tough. It's not easy to do, and most small businesses fail within the first 5 years. And we certainly, at the gym, went through our ups and downs, and now being in charge of that facility has provided quite a bit of stress. But we've managed to navigate those waters because we assembled a team of good people who care, people who we can rely on. And so that's the most important thing that I've learned, is build a team of good people. One of the other things that struck me was a quote that I saw, and I honestly can't remember who said it right now, but somebody right now is doing what you want, being less qualified than you are, essentially because they had the guts to take the first step. And that's the other lesson that I've learned from entrepreneurship, is you have to take control of your own destiny. You have to get your foot in the door, and sometimes you have to kick the door down. And I use this Tim Ferriss quote quite a bit, but your measure of success is going to be directly proportional to the number of hard conversations you're willing to have. And I think that is something that can't be understated. You need to understand the importance of approaching people and taking that step, asking for mentorship, asking somebody to grab coffee or take them out to lunch or dinner and pick their brain if there's somebody who you look up to or you believe could be a mentor for you. Because a lot of people are willing to mentor you and willing to help you out or are willing to give you opportunities, but you need to go out and get them. And I think far too many people are passive and kind of wait for things to come their way. So kick the door down, go out, seize those opportunities, because a lot of successful entrepreneurs aren't even necessarily more talented than you. They may not have more knowledge than you, but they just had the guts to actually put themselves out there and go for it and have that hard conversation. And along those lines, Chrissy's going to talk about this a little bit about proofreading things, but nobody cares about your product or your business as much as you do. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're building something, if you're putting something out there, nobody is going to care as much as you do. And so you should always make sure that you're looking at everything that goes out. I see a lot of business owners fail because they step away too early or they're not directly involved. If you're running a business, if you're running a company, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to have your eyes on everything, and you need to trust your people to do the right thing and do their job well. But don't let anything go past you without looking at it. Don't, assume that things are going to be done well, because at the end of the day, even if you have a great team, nobody cares about your product and your company as much as you do if it's your business. And that, it really boils down to just quality control and making sure you stay on top of everything. And on that note, there are really two other things that I think fall in line with this. When we're talking about building a team, most of the most successful entrepreneurs are not the smartest people. They're not the most talented people. They're not the, ones voted most likely to succeed in their high school yearbook. But what they do is they have a vision and they build a team around them. So they are not the smartest person at the company, but they hire the smartest people to help run the company. So they may not have the knowledge or in-depth knowledge necessary to get something off the ground, but they have an idea, they have the guts to pursue it, and they hire people who are smarter than them to help them run it. And so a lot of people hesitate or wait, or they have a good idea and they don't take steps forward. They don't move forward with that idea because they think that they're not talented enough, or that they need to learn more, or that, they're not ready, or the timing's not right. But understand that the people who are most successful most of the time are in the same boat. They're not ready. They're not, the smartest person around. They don't have the skill set to pursue what they want to pursue, but they surround themselves with the people who do, and they take action, they take initiative. And that is the most important thing. If you take nothing away from this episode, take away the fact that even if you have a great idea, even if you have all the stars align, if you don't actually take action, take initiative, if you don't have the guts to push forward, then you can't succeed as an entrepreneur. You can't succeed as a business owner. You have to be willing to take those risks, because there are so many people who will not take those risks because they want to play it safe. And so the last point that I will make, and I hope this one hits home, there is no secret manual for success. Mark Zuckerberg did not magically have, the Bible of entrepreneurship at his disposal. Jeff Bezos did not have the Bible of entrepreneurship. There's not some secret manual that the most successful people in the world have and you don't. And sometimes I think there's this thought process that we're missing information that successful people have. And with entrepreneurship, there's no right way to do things. There are a lot of wrong ways, and the best way to learn what not to do is to gain experience. And the best way to gain experience is to fail repeatedly, over and over and over again. So don't think that there's some secret handbook that you're missing, or secret knowledge that you don't have. The best way to get better, the best way to learn, is to put yourself out there, crash and burn, and then learn the lessons from that situation and correct next time you're in that same situation. So there's no secret handbook. There's no mystery code that you don't have access to. At the end of the day, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a business owner, if you want to be ultimately successful, you need to put yourself out there, and you just need to kick the door down and take steps in the right direction. Surround yourself with a good team of people you can trust, people who have the same values as you. Hire people who are smarter than you to solve the problems you can't solve, and lead from the front, lead by example. Remember that nobody cares as much as you do, so always pay attention to detail, always watch, always care, always go the extra mile. And if you do those things, I promise you that your chances of success are going to be astronomically higher than most people who are going out there and starting their own business. And if you are an entrepreneur, it's not easy. Good luck. It is one of the most rewarding ways to build a career for yourself in the modern world. It is the ultimate way that you can create freedom for yourself to really do what you want and enjoy the lifestyle that you want. So best of luck to all of you entrepreneurs out there.